Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, for the next few minutes, I want you to imagine we're sitting down together for a one-on-one executive coaching session. Because today, we are completely dismantling that stressful, outdated haggling mindset that so many of us were taught. You know exactly the one I'm talking about. You ask for $5,000, they offer $2,500, you go back and forth, and eventually everybody just walks away frustrated. Instead, we're going to lean on the legendary framework from the Harvard Negotiation Project, from that classic book, Getting to Yes, and we are going to completely reconstruct how you handle salary discussions, business contracts, and those really high-stakes deals.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to think back to your last major deal. Did you actually win, or did you just fall into that classic 50-50 haggling trap? A lot of us are conditioned to think that splitting the difference is the ultimate fair outcome. But what really happens? Both sides end up giving up something they care about. You leave money on the table, and honestly, both people leave feeling kind of dissatisfied. It turns into this battle of wills where you either force them to accept your terms or you cave. But what if I told you that in a true masterclass negotiation, there are literally no winners or losers in the traditional sense?
To get us to that masterclass level, here is our 4-step playbook for today. Number 1, uncover hidden interests. Number 2, use fair standards. Number 3, invent mutual gains. And number 4, handle the humans.
All right, let's kick things off with step 1, uncover hidden interests.
As an executive coach, the absolute first thing I tell my clients is you have got to stop fixating on what people loudly demand and start figuring out what they secretly need. Think about two people in a library getting into an argument over a window. One is loudly demanding the window be open, the other is demanding it closed. Now, those are their rigid positions. And if you only look at those positions, you're totally stuck. I mean, what do? Open it halfway? That doesn't help anyone. But a really smart librarian looks for their interests, their hidden needs. It turns out one person just needs fresh air, and the other person just wants to stop the wind from blowing their papers all over the place. The solution? The librarian walks into the next room over and opens a window there. Boom, fresh air comes in, the papers stay put. Both parties get exactly what they actually needed.
So, the big question is, how do you find those hidden interests in the real world, especially when egos are flaring up and emotions are high? Well, you execute what I call the why pivot. You just simply ask, why do you want this? Or what's the real driver behind this request? When you ask why, the entire dynamic shifts. You aren't fighting over the steering wheel anymore. You are suddenly sitting right next to each other in the passenger seats, collaborating to figure out the best route. Asking why makes the other person feel genuinely heard and respected, which is exactly the point where real trust starts to build.
Moving right along to step 2, use fair standards. Because look, let's be real. Even when you perfectly diagnose someone's hidden interests, sometimes those interests are just inevitably going to clash. You want a higher salary, but your boss has a tight budget. You want to pay less, the seller wants to make a profit. To avoid turning this into a boxing match, you have to rely on objective, fair standards. You want to completely remove personal ego from the equation. Imagine you're hiring a contractor to build your house. They say the foundation only needs to be 2 feet deep to save some money, but you're demanding 5 feet. Instead of just arguing until you're both blue in the face, you step back and say, hey, I might be wrong here, and you might be wrong. Let's pull up the local government earthquake guidelines for this specific soil type. Instantly, the argument is dead. You're leaning on a fair, objective standard that neither of you controls.
And doing this brilliantly shifts the dynamic from me versus you straight to me and you versus the problem. It's like two kids trying to share a piece of cake. If they just argue over it, both of them are going to think the other kid got the bigger slice. But if you apply a fair rule, say one person cuts the cake and the other person gets to pick the first slice, well, the person cutting is going to be incredibly careful to slice it perfectly down the middle. Relying on pre-agreed rules practically forces an objective, smart solution every single time.
Okay, that brings us to step 3, invent mutual gains. You really need to start framing differing interests not as a frustrating roadblock, but as your absolute biggest opportunity. Let's look at the classic 50-50 trap again. 2 kids violently fighting over a single orange. A parent walks in, grabs a knife, slices the orange right down the middle, hands half to each kid. Seems totally fair, right? But watch what actually happens. The first kid eats the fruit inside and throws the peel in the trash. The second kid takes their half, throws away the fruit, and uses the peel to bake a cake. That 50-50 split was a massive failure. If the parent had just paused for a second to ask why, one kid could have walked away with 100% of the fruit, and the other could have added 100% of the peel.
To actually find that magical 100-100 solution in your own high-stakes deals, you've got to lay down some rules for brainstorming. First, brainstorm freely. Literally put every idea on the table, no matter how crazy it sounds. Second, and this is absolutely critical, separate your ideas from the decisions. Do not judge ideas while you're brainstorming. The second you judge an idea too early, you kill the creativity. Third, view your differences as opportunities, just like the fruit versus the peel. And finally, combine and refine all those best pieces to actually solve the puzzle.
And finally, step 4, handle the humans.
Here's the truth. You can have the absolute best objective data and the most creative mutual gain solutions in the world, but your deal will absolutely fall apart if you ignore the human ego. This is the final and honestly the most dangerous trap that ruins contracts: personal attacks and emotional miscommunications. People are unpredictable. Words get misunderstood. So you have to remember this golden rule. Be soft on the person, but hard on the problem. Next time you walk into a negotiation, I want you to mentally draw a line right down the middle of the person sitting across from you. On the left side is the human being, on the right side is the problem. You need to thoroughly respect, validate, and understand that human on the left, while ruthlessly challenging the problem on the right.
And if you want a proven tactical advantage for handling the human side, get this: taking just 5 to 10 minutes before the negotiation even begins to build some emotional safety through genuine human connection, asking about their weekend, their commute, just having normal, friendly small talk that actually increases your negotiation success rate by 20 to 30%. The pros know this isn't wasted time. It's literally the foundation of trust.
All right, let's wrap this up with a final thought: redefining the win. As we finish up this coaching session, we really need to completely throw out the idea that negotiating is some kind of boxing match. There's this brilliant little story from 1964 in London's Hyde Park. An American father and his 12-year-old son were out there throwing a Frisbee, which, by the way, was practically unheard of in England at the time. A whole crowd gathered to watch this weird activity. And eventually, a guy steps forward and politely asks the father, "Excuse me, I've been watching you for a while. Who exactly is winning?" The father just laughs and says, "In Frisbee, nobody wins. You just play." And you know what? A true master negotiator completely understands this. Your goal isn't to crush a loser. Your goal is to work together, find smart solutions, protect the relationship, and keep the game going so both sides leave completely satisfied. So I'm going to leave you with this one question. Think about that next major contract, that upcoming salary review, or that big high-stakes deal on your calendar. If that negotiation is no longer a battle to be won, but a collaborative puzzle for you to solve together, what is your very first move going to be? Remember the playbook: uncover the interest, find the standard, invent the gain, and handle the human. Good luck out there.